All right. All right. How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, and we've got Brittany, the Shadow, with us. What's going on?
Hello, everyone.
Okay, to start things out. Oh, that was painful. I know a lot of people in the chat are thinking, oh, dear heavens, that was the hardest thing to watch in my life. Cardin the Boomer King is learning the ways of Cody the Oracle. He is on family leave today. He's out. Yeah,
Did you get rid of the 5-minute timer? Because that was still going.
Oh, yeah, that's off. That's
okay.
off.
So this is delayed. This is delayed then. Okay, cool.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a delay. I apologize. We're gonna get this off the off the screen here. Before we start things out, though, welcome everybody to the chat. Starting out with a super chat. What's going on? Jeremy says, "Yo, my man, how are you, brother?" Hashtag ADOS. Jeremy, I am well. Thank you very much. By the way, I want to know what the real deal is with ADOS. I've heard all kinds of different things. From what I understand, it's the American Descendants of Slaves. Some people said that it was just a bunch of conservatives trying to throw a monkey wrench into the progressive movement. Other people say it's super progressive. Some say it's genuine. Some say it's not. I confess that my research and knowledge is limited on ADOS, so I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say about it, my man. Getting a lot of good feedback on the new intro. Did you like the new intro, Brittany?
I did. It was very video game-ish. It was screaming Cody. It was screaming Cody.
Yeah, we'll see what he thinks about it. Cody, let us know if you can ever dip in the chat. Let me see. Hold on. First, I got to be able to read all these things. I'm not used to looking right in order to read all the super chats. I'm used to looking left. So anyway, got a couple of comments here that I want to take here. It's pretty funny. Caxton Jones. Haven't heard from Caxton Jones. This is great. It says, is that shirt Cardin's best Cody cosplay? Actually, hold on. If I can button it down to the navel, you know, then it's Cody cosplay. Here, this is a little bit more Cody cosplay right here. You know what I'm saying? V-Tran says, I guess another 5 minutes. Yeah, dang it. I didn't quite get it off of the 5-minute countdown here. Bum, 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 bum. As you can see right here, that was actually a countdown from YouTube. We've been having a lot of problems with YouTube because even though I purchased royalty-free music for the introduction, what had happened is the royalty-free music website that I had purchased it from, Pond 5, and you pay a handsome amount. It's $80 or $90 for a solid 10-minute song. They have algorithms that run through YouTube, checking all the different videos and playing different videos to sample and see if people have downloaded their music and have been used it, and they copyright strike it. So even though you've paid for it, they copyright strike it. And I kept on saying, why are you guys, the people I bought it from, copyright striking the song that I have spent, days editing an intro for my live stream on? And they say, oh, well, you can dispute it and show them the receipt that you bought it from us. Well, yeah, but by that time the damage is already done. Our live stream's not monetized. You know what I'm saying? And we've got a copyright strike against our channel because I rightfully bought money from you. So Pond 5, they kind of screwed themselves on that one. And we might have to be using Artlist or some of the other websites that have been suggested in chat. By the way, Brittany, you're going to tell us what's going on this week. You're the new Cody the Oracle that's going to tell us what's going on this week because you're always in the know. So anyway.
Unless you want to know about the Kardashians. Just kidding.
Do you keep up with the Kardashians, babe?
I wouldn't say keep up, but I would say... I don't know what I would say, actually.
I guess that's a yes. That's a yes right there. All right. Sly Cactus says, Vtran, it looks more like Cardin is filling in for Cody and Brittany is filling in for Cardin. Yeah, awesome. And Bo Watson says he really likes the speeches. All right, man. Don't know what the speeches are, but we're going to keep going. And Bo Watson says, it's almost like you are getting censored. Anyway, Sly Cactus also jokes around, don't look right or left, look forward. Boom shakalaka. I'm loving the old Andrew Yang reference. In fact, I got to tell you guys, I've become very independent a la Cody-esque the past couple of weeks. I don't know about you guys, but I've kind of been going through a little bit of a transition here. I've been deeply affected by something that actually our man Jesse Ventura said. Jesse Ventura said that he, I'm going to see if I can't find it right now, actually, that all these different labels of left, right, conservative, Republican, Democrat, so on and so forth, were just invented by the corporate media and political class in order to, quote, divide the revolutionaries. And I was actually very, very affected by that. So I've kind of become a little bit more viciously independent in that regard over the past couple of days. I feel like I was always pretty independent before. Don't forget, I was fired by the local Republicans. Okay. My family has a rich history of being Republicans. We date back to Clara Barton, the founder of the American Red Cross. I have family members that were active in the Underground Railroad. Republicans were the abolitionist movement of the late 1800s. Okay. So there's a rich pride of civil rights there and respect for humanity, love for humanity, so on and so forth that I'm very proud of. But at the same time, the nation is sick and our leadership is sick. And I think the absolute failure of our leadership has never been more manifest than literally by what we're going through right now. I mean, for heaven's sakes, we just had both political classes agree to make it so that half of the African Americans in the United States of America could just be jobless right now and completely unemployed. We've all agreed that, small businesses, which are the heartbeat of America, and literally the core of some of these communities, the anchors that keep some of these communities together, they're going to be capped. Oh, we're going to have these big bailouts. Don't worry. The big bailouts are going to happen. We're going to bail out Boeing. We're going to bail out the big companies. And we're going to do it shamelessly. And then they're still going to furlough their workers. Oh, but you want $2,000 instead of $1,500 as a small business? Oh, no, there's no more money for you. And it's capped up this rage. And now it's gotten so bad that, you cruise down 5th Avenue, 6th Avenue in New York. You cruise down really nice parts here of Los Angeles. What's the place, babe? Melrose is the street where everybody does all the fashion shopping, right?
Yeah, like 3rd Street Promenade.
Yeah. You go down any of these places, and if they're not boarded up, they're smashed out. And there's such widespread violence that, it's literally an anarchist dream out there. And the whole time we've been lied to. You know, at first, I don't know if you remember it, Brittany, but we were arguing in a three-way chat with a friend who was trying to blame all of this violence on white supremacist groups. You know what I'm saying? And we find out that all came just from a lie that Joy Reid had basically started to defend her friends in the DNC, and a lie from the Minneapolis mayor saying that like some 80% or some 90% of the people he'd arrested were from out of town, when really it was actually people from in that town. And it wasn't, you know, Russian agents. It wasn't white supremacists. It wasn't Vladimir Putin's KGB riding in on horseback to try and sow discord. It was actually the people. And the people are pissed. And they don't like the fact that the people are pissed. And they used to be able to blame white supremacists. But you can't blame you can't blame a group that barely even factually exists. I mean, Pew Research did this really interesting poll that I like to remind people of. Before you blame Russia for every problem in America, you have to remember Russia has the GDP of Italy. You know, they have the same economic gravitas and resources that Italy has. Now, granted, yes, they got nuclear weapons, and yes, they've got a legacy of a much larger military, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, when you want to start saying that, you know, the big bad Russian government is responsible for something and is capable of being responsible for something, you have to remember that you're talking about a country that only has the resources of Italy. So before you start saying, oh, white supremacists this, white supremacists that, white supremacists this, neo-Nazis that, you have to remember Pew Research did a poll, and now it's almost a 10-year-old poll, okay? And I remember the results of the poll came out, and it was like a conspiracy poll and different, you know, what people believed poll. And I don't remember the exact number, so I don't want to make up a stat on the spot. But I do remember that while reading the results of that poll, there were actually more people that believed Elvis was still alive than actually believed that they were superior because of the color of their skin. So I was calling BS and thought that it was fishy when they were trying to blame it on white supremacist groups. And what do they find out? It's actually people from the community, which means now, just like Elon Musk says, sooner or later, UBI is going to be an inevitability, and it will force us to actually look inward and analyze deeper, more spiritual problems. That forces these municipalities to dig deeper and say, okay, so why are our people pissed? Okay, and why are our people going out there and smashing windows? And we have to deal with some hard, crappy, factual truths. Our leadership has let us down. Okay, so how do we handle that? We were unprepared. How do we handle that? Economics trumps everything. Guess what? It's not racial. Okay? Crappy cops hurt vulnerable citizens. And it just happens to be that our media loves exploiting it and blowing it out of proportion and sensationalizing it. Actually, I shouldn't say blowing it out of proportion, because an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere, as Martin Luther King said. But
Question.
Yes.
When you say leadership failed us, are you meaning city, state, federal, all of the above?
The short answer to that is yes.
All of the above?
In general, my answer to this will be, I don't want to say all of the above because that seems irresponsible, because there have been good leaders in my lifetime that I've seen. Okay. But I would say not enough of the above. Okay. Not enough of the above, because once again, you go out and you do a lot of these polls. Okay. And what do you find in these polls? You actually find out that, hold on a second here. I got to get a new tab. Okay. You actually find out that most people, when polled, can't think of a nationwide organizational leader that they trust. Think how horrible that is. There's nobody that can step in right now in America and say, hold on, guys, stop this. Listen to me. Let's calm down. I'm going to guide us out of this.
Is it too soon to say that could have been Andrew Yang? Is that too soon?
I think you just
became... Are we not recovered?
Well, he wouldn't have become president, but this really, I do think, is an opportunity for Andrew Yang. You know what I'm saying? I don't underestimate that, actually, because the truth is, I think that is what people are craving right now. They're absolutely craving that kind of leadership. So Anyway, I got a couple of chats here. First off, Andy Meows. Hey, welcome to Problem Solver Politics. I didn't realize that you were not a member of the channel, Andy Meows. Thanks for joining. We're actually super happy to have you here, and glad to have you on the team. The free market just sounds so ironic when the bailouts come. Yeah, because it's like Cactus. It's not a free market. We're not living in a capitalist system. I defend tooth and nail capitalism, but we don't have a capitalist system. We have a crony capitalist system where the corporate Republicans keep talking about the importance of the free market and then are giving a bunch of giveaways in their district to their buddies. We see it here where I live. Developers are the ones that control the purse strings and do all the major donations in California for the few Republican seats that are left. Okay. In Texas, the oil lobby is so strong, you can't even buy a Tesla. They're not allowed to set up a purchase of a Tesla in Texas. I mean, a state that would be like the 10th largest economy and air force in the world if it were its own country. Okay. And Tesla can't compete there. That's not innovation. That's not rewarding entrepreneurial spirit of Elon Musk. That's trying to hamstring him. Why? Because you have a bunch of congressmen who own dealerships that want to make sure that they protect their interests, but they're not protecting the interests of the middle class or even the lower class. And who can really claim defending them? Not Democrats anymore. They used to, because there was that connection of the union thugs, but unions are all corrupt now. Nobody trusts their unions anymore. Nobody thinks their unions are watching out for them. So you have a lot of people really, really pissed that have been told to stay home and be jobless to fear a virus that ended up not being a problem. And if you're going to lie to me about the reason why you made me unemployed and ruined my business for the irrecoverable future, and I find out that it was just a mistake, what else are you making mistakes on that aren't in my interest? Possibly my own personal safety? Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, we're going to start out here. 2,095 individuals control $7.8 trillion, says Bo Watson. Yeah, that's true. I'd like to see the stat backing that up, where you got that from, if you've got an article. But data like that is coming in and getting proven very correct. And by the way, that's a bipartisan ailment. Okay. Don't think, I know a lot of progressives thinks that, the left wing of the Democrat Party is the one that's going to be able to bring that back or challenge that. But don't forget, it's the left wing of the Democratic Party that made the discrepancy between rich and poor worse. The rich never got richer and the poor never got poorer until Barack Obama was our president. We never saw a bigger divide between the rich and the poor in our country until the most progressive president that we ever had was our president. It was also the first time that over 51% of American citizens ended up on welfare, and over 51% of businesses failed. What does it tell us? I'm not here to bag on Barack Obama. Love Barack Obama if you want to. Okay, I'm not here to bag on the Democrats. Democrats have a rich history that dates back all the way to Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers. There have been great Democratic presidents. I think John F. Kennedy was a populist. Closest thing to a populist we had in the 60s, sorry. It was a great president. But I'm here to say that the leadership has been corrupted. And I got a question, like, where do we go from here? You know what I'm saying? V-Trans says no one is scared of Russia. Everyone's scared of China. Yeah, well, then why'd we sell the Russia narrative for so long? Going down, let me see. I literally went to Forbes and scrolled through every person who had over $1 billion. Then I added it with a calculator, says Bo Watson.
That's awesome.
Wait, Bo, did you actually legit do that? That is some legitimate investigative journalism right there. You know what I'm saying? Ifuriel asks, what's this? Card in the Oracle? Yes, it's true. Card in the Oracle today. And Diva J461 says, yeah, the rich will find a way to avoid the wealth tax. Yeah, that's why wealth taxes don't work. Only consumption taxes work, because all the other forms of taxing have a loophole. There's no loophole for petroleum tax. There's no loophole for it. There's no loophole for sales tax. Actually, in the state of California, it is. If you're doing something for entertainment and you state that it's for entertainment, you only pay 2% sales tax instead of like 7%. Back when it was implemented in the 90s, back when we only had a 7% sales tax, now we have a 10% sales tax. It's crazy. So, I mean, generally consumption taxes are harder to get around, and the rich consume just like the poor consume. That's why a VAT tax was a good idea. Not a VAT tax on top of all our other taxation, but as a replacement to the taxation that we have. Yeah, absolutely. So Emerald Miners in the chat says, we elect Andrew Yang in 2024. That's where we go. Hey, I think there's a strong potential for him. And I've said for a long time that if he can cultivate this UBI caucus and actually raise his profile as somebody who's a serious contender, I think he has the temperament to become a serious contender for the presidency, and not just this sideshow gimmick that the Democrats have on stage so they can say, look, we have a POC too. You know what I'm saying? And then forget he's actually a POC, which is the most ironic part. You know, in fact, why are we even talking about that? Who cares? He's just good.
DNC would never let Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang would have a better shot running as an independent than running as a Democrat.
Do you think so?
Yep.
What makes you say that?
Everything that's happened.
Okay.
DNC is so corrupt. Look what they did to Bernie Sanders. I can't stand Bernie Sanders, but look what they did to him. Now they have Biden. They had plenty of candidates that they could have chosen, and Biden is what they chose.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to know what you guys want to talk about here. If you could help me out and just light up the chat. I got a bunch of things that I like talking about, but then again, I'm Cardin the Boomer King. You know what I'm saying? And the whole reason I love the live streaming format is because, I have a chance to interact directly with the audience here, and I really like doing that. Before we get started, babe.
Yeah.
What are the biggest things that happened today?
Today?
Well, what stood out in your mind? Because you were on Facebook and Twitter fights all day.
No, that was yesterday. I swore off social media because I couldn't deal with anyone's dimwit ideas anymore.
That's funny because
basically the world is just in chaos. I don't know. Like that's what the news has been for weeks now. Yeah. I don't know.
I have to say I'm in an interesting position now too, because I've kind of sworn off social media as well. And I actually think, and chat, tell me if you guys are going the same way. I was an early adopter of cutting the cord. Okay, as much as I am the Boomer King, there's times where I'm actually an early adopter. I was a super early adopter of cutting the cord and not having cable, not having TV, not having direct TV or anything like that. And I had specific reasons for that. I've kind of cut the cord a little bit on basic social media just because I'm only going to engage in social media where nuance is understood. Cody the Oracle, when he's here, he actually brings up a really good point, that he doesn't think the world was prepared for a form of communication in which body language wasn't part of that communication and wasn't how we could tell the feelings of the other person. Okay? And I love live streaming and YouTube because YouTube's qualified as social media. I think we say social media, people think of like, Gab, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, where you're typing away on your thumbs all day. They don't necessarily think, oh, YouTube. But YouTube is a social media platform. What we're doing right now is socializing online. Everybody's giving their opinions and they're saying what's up. And that's the kind of interaction that I want with people digitally if I'm not going to have it in person, is the ability to actually read their responses here. So VTran says Andrew Yang really hates Trump. Actually, I didn't get that vibe. I thought that there was
who hates Trump? I didn't see
Andrew Yang. I didn't get the sense that Andrew Yang hated Trump. His diss has always seemed a little bit forced, just like his endorsement of Joe Biden is forced. If you want to say he hates Trump, you have to say he loves Joe Biden, and I'm not convinced of either one of those things.
Does anyone love Joe Biden?
Yeah.
I think everyone's just kind of like, well, I hate Trump, so I guess I'll close my eyes and vote for Biden, the guy that doesn't know anything anymore.
And he probably already forgot what he didn't know yesterday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, VTran says I cut the social media out as much as I can. I'm curious to see what you replace it with, VTran. And Diva J461 says haven't had social media since middle school. Interesting. Have you really lived without social media? That's intriguing.
Did you say social media or cable?
No, he says I've lived without social media.
Oh.
That is interesting. Diva J461. I want to know what that's like. And then also, Dustin says, how about the fact that as a human species, we don't even have a universal language? You are wrong. You are wrong.
Ooh, passion. Passion is coming out.
No. What is that universal language they did a Star Trek episode in?
Body language.
Body language? No. No, you need to look this up. There was an actual Star Trek episode that it wasn't done in pidgin English. It was done in, oh, goodness gracious. We're going to look this up. Hold on. We're going to look this up. Star Trek episode done in universal language. And it had William Shatner was speaking this like, here he is, speaks Esperanto. And it's a scene from Incubus. Okay, so here we go. Shatner right now is speaking in what was supposed to be the universal language. Here, let's see.
It's called Esperanto?
Yeah, Esperanto. Dude, William Shatner.
Hey, Marco. Vi decidis vivi. Fin fine.
Marco, Ricardo mi envisaggio.
You're like, dude, apparently a bunch of social scientists actually got together and said, hey, if we simplified language.
La besto in la campo havas karajan. La play mal grande birdo they pay to see on flugilo.
Yeah, if we simplified language. And we actually made the simplest form of language to teach to each other, what would it look like? And they came up, I believe that's the story. Chat, look it up. But that ended up being Esperanto. And the basis of this is actually really interesting. I was a linguistic major. And by the way, tell me if you guys think that that this is all a bunch of garbage and is super boring. Okay, I know that sometimes things that I think are interesting aren't interesting. But Spanish, I'm bilingual in Spanish, and that's why people are always asking me to say something silly in Spanish in the chat. But Spanish is actually a much easier language to learn because the average Spanish speaker only really needs to control a vocabulary of about 2,000 to 2,200 words. Okay. And part of the reason is because the language relies a lot on really simplification. We don't have a word for toenail, as an example, in Spanish. In Spanish, you say, we don't even have a word for finger. We say we don't have a word for toe. It's called the finger of the foot. So dedo del pie is how you say a toe. And if you want to say toenail, you say las uñas or la uña de los dedos del pie. So la uña de los dedos del pie. There's 10 syllables there to say toe, nail. So that's why English is called the language of the poets, or the descriptive language, because the average, at least American English speaker, controls a vocabulary of about 13,000 words. Okay. So where we expand our vocabulary, we lessen how many words we have to use. Okay. There was a very famous author named Jorge Luis Borges, who's the guy that wrote La Biblioteca de Babel, the Library of Babel. He also wrote Funes el Memorioso, which is Funes the Memorious. He's considered to be the author that invented magical realism in the 40s, which is basically what like Pan's Labyrinth is based off of, and all the Guillermo del Toro movies are based off of. The Shape of Water is a perfect example of magical realism. All right. And he was famously asked, why don't you write in English? And he said, I would never want to defile the language of Shakespeare and the language of the descriptive language. And so the Book of Mormon, for example, is like 640 pages in Spanish when it's only like 400 pages in English, because we just have more words. All right. So
we have a super chat.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to finish up?
I'll get to that in a second. Yeah, let me finish this up. So anyway, having more words is great for communicating, but unfortunately, it makes it very hard to learn very quickly. Okay. So the people that developed Esperanto said, hey, why don't we like have super simple grammar? You know what I'm saying? And one thing that's nice about Spanish is there's no weird pronunciations of anything. Like there's no PH or F or, there's none of that. It's a super simple language. So they said, let's like take the best parts of all language and stick them in a blender and then make a universal language, Esperanto. And in the social revolutions of the 60s, I think they kind of pushed this. But I don't think it ever went anywhere. Although we do have this awesome episode of William Shatner speaking Esperanto as proof that it is indeed possible. So anyway, got a super chat here. Brittany, read it.
Okay, from Sly Cactus. Thank you very much. He or she, I don't know who you are, Sly Cactus, but you said, in a world where the two biggest parties control the government, whose prides are too big to share the power, in what way can we ever get ranked choice voting into the biggest elections?
Revolution. But I don't think it necessarily has to be a violent kind of revolution. But an awakening of the people.
A renaissance? Is that what you're
A
implying?
renaissance. Yes, absolutely. That's why Cody has oftentimes pushed back on my call for Andrew Yang to start a third party, because he said, look, the two parties will just team up against the third, and you have two big goons fighting one tiny wannabe goon. They're going to smash any kind of third party, and that's probably why the Green Party and Libertarian Party hasn't gotten anywhere. I don't hold that cynical view. I think that a celebrity character like Jesse Ventura could really make the Green Party relevant. I wouldn't say again, because they never were, but he could make them relevant for the first time. I think a very kind-hearted, good-spirited, hard-working, and intelligent individual like Andrew Yang could get a humanity first party going. Now, he's tried this humanity forward 501c3, and that seems to be working out for him and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe the UBI caucus is the way to go. I'm not sure. But I think a third party could be birthed and successful, but it would require a whole lot of celebrity, because that's what our society is based off of right now. We keep up with the Kardashians instead of keeping up with our senator. We used to be a lot more politically literate. We also used to have a lower population. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, yeah, let's keep going here. So thank you, Sly Cactus, for the super chat. Anyway, Bo Watson says, regarding the Great Awakening, yeah, I think we could call it that. Although I do have to say, it kind of sounds like some kind of banana republic's excuse to suppress free speech and to police its own people with the military. Because do you ever notice that all of the weird communist, horrible things that happened in the 20th century always had these beautiful names, like re-education, or the People's Revolution, I only have respect for at least the name of one People's Revolution, and that was Robespierre calling it the Reign of Terror during the French Revolution, because at least he was just saying what it was. You know what I'm saying? What was not Pol Pot, but Mao Zedong's phrase? He called it the Cultural Revolution and the Great Step Forward. I think I might be mixing up my dictators here, but I just remember the great step forward of humanity was murdering 20 million people. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about that one. So anyway, Informo234 says, hey, Cardin, what do you think about people like Kamala, AOC, Abrams, Cuomo, and Newsom potentially siphoning Andrew Yang's 2024 bid? He's got to fight. He's got to fight for relevance, and they've got relevance right now, because they have an establishment media class that keeps pumping their garbage. A really interesting podcast that you guys have to watch once you're done consuming our content is Cristobal and Sagar and Jetty, the guys that are in charge of The Hill. It's one of the podcasts that I really enjoy watching. They're both populist people. Of course, I agree with Sagar a whole lot more than I do with Crystal, but that's irrelevant, because both of them are willing to call out their own party when their party's in the wrong, and that's what we need. They talk a lot about the media and establishment corporate classes channels that they create to just get herds of people following the talking points and then spitting them out on the media, and how that's why their show was different. I think to a certain extent that's why me and Cody's show is different, because people appreciate that we call out those who supposedly share our ideologies on paper, for not sticking to those ideologies and not sticking to what helps the people at large. Cody's a huge, he's a very loving individual, and one of his biggest frustrations too is all of this racial strife right now. And he often says, why can't I just look at the Ghetto Boys and at Big L and Jay-Z and these great American artists like Kanye West and so on and so forth? Why can't I just say, yeah, my fellow American rapper? Why do I have to say African-American rapper? Because they've got us speaking. He said something really interesting to me that made me think a lot. He says, they got us speaking, and he doesn't know who it is, but he says, they got us so that we can't even address our fellow Americans without one adjective. You know, like, oh, he's Jewish American, or oh, he's Catholic American, or oh, is he African American, or oh, this is my female coworker, or whatever. You know, like, why can't we just literally love each other and say, dude, my fellow American, you know, and recognize that, you know, when the Ghetto Boys talk about, hey, I'm losing my mind. And you listen to this really cool song where they talk about how life in the ghetto in the streets is really hard because it makes you lose your mind because you're constantly wondering what's in the shadows, constantly wondering if another gang's going to go out and get you. Why can't we recognize, A, that that's just as cool as the old Westerns used to be in the 40s and 50s? And that's why we watched them, because it was wild, wild west. Okay? And second off, why can't we recognize that, yeah, dude, I know what he's talking about. I feel that. There's been times in my life where I felt like I've been losing my mind because of X, Y, or Z thing. And this guy's losing his mind because of, you know, the thug life he's adopted or whatever he proclaims to call it in the song. But like, why can't I look at that and say, yeah, dude, my fellow American, I feel that guy. I feel him. You know, why do I have to say, oh, no, that's the African American experience, when that could easily be the American experience? So, yeah, anyway, Jesse Penn says the Forward Party. Hey, that'd be a really cool a way of calling it. That'd be a really cool way of calling it. The Forward Party. Jesse Penn, thank you for the super chat. And Nathan Butcher says, did you watch Broiler's Senate debate? Ways better, ?
Way better questions than the Dem debates.
Oh, way better questions than the Dem debate. Sorry, was I
gotcha.
Was I Boomer Kinging it right
there?
there?
I got you, boo.
Yeah, all right. No, I didn't. Send me a link. I've heard about this, but wasn't able to watch it. I was actually working that day. I had 16 appointments that day. I didn't really consume too much media. Anyway, do we got any others that I'm missing here? No. So that was an answer to Sly Cactus' question, is we would have to reject as a people the narrative, Sly Cactus, that they retain the power. And we'd have to recognize that we retain the power. That's a spiritual awakening in the United States of America. That's a spiritual one. And Cody says this a lot. Cody's had deep influence on me. That's why I probably have stayed so long with this channel, and probably why I love talking so much about this. But one of the things he brought up is he says, the day those in power can't get us to turn on ourselves, and the day that we as a people recognize this isn't a side-to-side argument, but an up-down argument. It's not a left-right argument, but an elites versus the people argument. When we actually have a unified working class and middle class, the elites in this country will crap a brick. And that's not advocating for violence against them. No. Once we peacefully say enough of your BS, boom, it's over. Game over. You know what I'm saying? And so I think subconsciously that was the yearning that I had of this channel, and probably why we named it Problem Solver Politics, is because I want to be a populist that's a problem solver that works for the people, and not just somebody who works for some soulless corporation or on behalf of some idiot party that doesn't really do anything to live up to the ideals that it convinced me were worth working for it in the first place. So anyway, let me see. Andy Ling says, when controlled economies, it's especially necessary. Don't know what he's talking about there. Sorry. Sly Cactus asks, what about the cactus Americans? Dude, Sly Cactus, who are you? Like, who are you? You're like punning it up all the time. And some of these puns, I got to admit, I dig them. As a dad, I think there's dad jokes here, and then there's solid puns. All right. And you're consistently coming up with solid puns. Okay. And are you just a dad that just has solid pun humor? You know, because your pun game is to 11, my man. And I just want to know, like, who are you? What's going on?
Maybe it's a girl.
Oh, dude. Is Sly Cactus a chick?
Maybe. You never know.
I got yelled at the other day for calling somebody a chick.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, if I can call a dude or a guy a dude, you can say chick, right? Is chick bad, babe? Do you feel disrespected if I say she's a hip chick or she's a hot chick?
I find it so insulting. No, I could care less.
Okay. All right, I feel you. That was deep, babe.
That's
Nathan
my deep
Retcher,
answer.
Yeah, Nathan Butcher says, hate Putin for being a monster, but when he says you are a Russian citizen, you're a Russian, not X-race Russian. We need us to all be Americans first, eh? Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. And that's why I was actually kind of really sad when she was on The View, and gosh, what was her name? Oh, she's a young hip hop artist. Who was the girl? Raven Simone, I think it was.
Oh, yeah, she was like a Disney Channel star.
Yeah, I think it was Raven Simone was on there, and she says, I don't like using the term African American. I like saying that I'm an American because I think African American can be divisive. And then she got lambasted for that.
I didn't see that. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I want to know, guys, this week was craziest. I'm sorry, that intro monologue was way too long. I want to know what you guys thought was the craziest thing that happened this week, and how do we rebuild? Okay, this is Problem Solver Politics. I want to know how we're going to rebuild this thing. Like, what do we do going forward? And who are the people you want us to invite on the show? If you guys have any in contacts, you can have us come in on the show. I'd love to see them come in on the show. But yeah, you got to tell us, this week was crazy. What was the craziest thing that happened this week, you think? And then I want to know what your suggestions are for what's it called? For solutions. Jesse Wren says, still low-key bummed Cardin misread my name. Jesse Wren, I apologize.
Yeah, I think you said Penn.
Oh, did I say Penn?
I think so.
Oh, like Penn Station, like William Penn?
Yes, but it's Ren.
It's Ren.
Yes.
Lo siento, mi amigo. No quise pronunciar mal tu nombre. That means, I'm sorry, my friend. I did not mean, or I did not want to mispronounce your name or pronounce your name badly. JT says the Shadow is a cool chick.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would say you're a cool chick.
Thanks.
And then also we got Kendra Bell saying, yeah, they called Raven all kinds of stuff. As a biracial American, I agreed with her. Yeah, I want to know, how do we bridge that gap? Like, how do we deprogram our minds? Because, you know, I want to know, how do we make it so we get to a place where we don't have to say African American because we're afraid of saying, oh yeah, my because we need some kind of descriptor. Like, I remember there was like a 1-day period where they outlawed racial descriptors in like the LAPD, where you weren't allowed to say, you know, okay, the suspect that's running south on Figueroa with the bag full of money and drugs and the shotgun is a 6'3", you know, black with white sneakers, jumping into a red SUV. You could only say like, oh, the 6'3" suspect with jeans. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it seems stupid to not have, you know, some kind of descriptive moniker. Like, you're a totally hot Norwegian looking chick. People sometimes, actually, it's really funny in Southern California because we're such a diverse place. People all the time go up to Brittany the Shadow and start speaking in Spanish or in Persian. Mm-hmm. She gets a lot of Persian. And what do people always say, babe?
They always just say, "What's your other half?" And I was like, "Wait, what? I don't understand what you're saying. What?" I was like, "No." They're like, "What? Like, what's your nationality?" White, American.
Like, I don't know. My grandma's an immigrant,
yeah,
you know?
Like my grandma came from Norway.
Yeah, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, what do we replace it with? It says we got to stop identifying with our bodies. Yeah, I mean, I know, but there's some kind of place where I think we just have to stop caring. Because it's kind of cool. I got a buddy who's like a total Indian dude. Like, his parents are like, they're legit like Indians, you know? And they're super happy to see me. Hello, Cardin. You know what I'm saying? And they're like the legit total Indian vibe, you know? And I love them, and they're awesome. And I don't know how to describe them other than like, yeah, dude, they're like total Indian dudes, you know? Mm-hmm. And they got the look, they got the vibe. They're cool cats. I love them for it. So I don't think that, I just wish we could strip racial descriptors from this automatic insinuation that by using them, it's automatically bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people can jokingly say like, oh, white man can't jump. I see that crap in basketball all the time. It's like, you know, I'm fine with it because then when I can jump and I dunk on them, it totally surprises them.
You're like, it's fine because it's true.
You know, a little bit. I've lost a lot. You know what I'm saying? But I just wonder, how do we fight it as a people? How do we take it back? You know? How do we grab it? Like Dave Chappelle grabbed comedy back and just took it. Do we do it just by unashamedly and unabashedly just doing it anyway, despite what the establishment says, and saying, I don't care, you can try and cancel me, but I'm going to joke about this. I'm going to laugh about this. I'm going to love this. And I'm going to have friends that are this despite what you say I can't do. Is that the way forward? I don't know.
Pause. Before we get into that, did you see you had a super chat?
Oh, no, hit it. What's the super chat?
From Bo Watson.
Bo.
He says, low-key Cardin, you might like Q if you looked it up on Q.pub. The Great Awakening is about Trump draining the swamp fighting establishment.
Oh, yeah. So we're talking about QAnon again. We're talking about
Is that
QAnon
how you say
again.
it? QAnon?
Yeah, so by the
I've
way.
only heard him as Q.
Okay, so I hate to say this, but now that Cody's not here, we can talk about this. Okay, because
snap.
Cody is so extremely online. He is tired of talking about things. By the time I've heard of them, he's forgotten more internet lore than I ever know. And so there has been this resurgence of QAnon lately, okay? But I don't even know what the full backstory is here, people. Like, apparently QAnon was actually a real person who was on 4chan making all kinds of posts, and Q with Anon later is Anon is the moniker that 4chan always gives you, and it means anonymous because that's the reason why people like going on 4chan is because you can post anonymously, which means you can get your real thoughts out there, or else you can troll even harder. You know what I'm saying? And fine, that's cool. For the people that are into it, I'm down with you being into that, whatever. Do your thing, you do you. But apparently there was a real person that was supposedly like spitting truth and dumping files and conspiracy theories that people were able to verify that actually became a thing.
He like predicted things and they came true. So I think that's where he gained his popularity, right?
Yeah. First off, how dare you assume his gender?
Oh, that's true.
No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, but then from what I understand, like then Alex Jones like called him out, said, "Oh, I'll reveal who you are." But then now like QAnon is almost just like this hive mind of conspiracy theories with no central kind of leadership behind it. Kind of like, I don't know, anonymous, I guess, even though technically anonymous does have a leader from what I understand. I don't even know technically what QAnon is right now, other than I feel like a bunch of old conspiracy theories now are coming to light again because there's a bunch of unemployed boomers at home who are starting to like read up on, I don't know, like Pizzagate, and stuff like that.
Q to me is like the cloud. Like, what is it? I don't really know. I know it's there. I know people use it. I know people talk about it, but I don't really know how it came to be. I don't know.
So he says, Bo Watson says, the Great Awakening is about Trump draining the swamp, fighting the establishment. I got to say, I give Trump a lot of credit because he's a populist and he knows he's a populist and he understands what gives him his power. And I think that's why Kanye West said that he loves him and he's got dragon energy, but I don't know if he's necessary. I think he's more somebody that understands his power and understands that it's the quote forgotten man and woman that elected him. I think he's more of that than like this white knight crusader that's going against the invisible enemy. I know a lot of people were super excited on Twitter when Trump says we're attacking the invisible enemy. And a lot of folks said, oh yeah, that's the, the ring of bad people in Hollywood. Yeah, I don't think we can say that word on YouTube.
Oh,
you know
sorry.
what I'm saying? So good thing we're talking at the same time, so I think the algorithms won't catch it. But
why can't you say that word?
I don't know. YouTube like censors big time. But well, actually, I don't want to say it censors, but I give YouTube credit. They are indeed a private company that needs to look out for the interests of the way they make money, which is advertisers. And advertisers don't want to just throw up necessarily their marker on something that can be clipped. They don't have their logo on the same screen as something that could be considered, at least algorithmically, a quote controversial subject. So I'm sure there's some kind of list of no words that they have on the back door somewhere that makes it so your videos get deprioritized. So I don't know. I just think somebody else needs to stand up and compete instead of barking too much about it. But anyway.
Look at V-Trans comment.
Yeah, hit it.
Q is...
You got to help me keep up with these comments, babe,
Okay,
because
I'm
I
trying.
am swimming here.
Okay,
Like, there is so much going on, guys. Cody the Oracle is a freaking guru. You guys, I mean, look at this. Look at this screen that he is just dealing with all the time. It's gnarly,
How sweaty are your armpits right now?
Oh, dude, my back just popped. That one disc that I got bad just totally hammered
Okay, well,
in.
listen to this comment by V-Tran. Q
Okay, hit it.
is Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, dude, you think so?
That would be a turn of events, wouldn't it?
Dude, that would, man. That would. Hugh is
Okay, you
Jeffrey
got a
Epstein.
super chat from Sly Cactus.
Okay, hit it.
Insert pun here. Winky face.
Oh gosh, I got to come up with a pun on the spot.
Or maybe he was just saying.
Oh,
here's a
that
pun.
comment was sly. Oh no, it was a horrible pun. That was bad, dude.
Put 'em.
Yeah, that was bad. Anyway, let me see. Dreadful Cadillac says Lafayette Square for that Trump photo op was crazy. And Jesse Wren says, poor Cody, LOL. Why is it poor?
Because of his screen. Probably.
Because of what?
The screen. He has a lot to deal with.
Oh yeah, no, it's true. It's crazy what he has to deal with. And then Bo Watson says heavy censorship and brings up the point that human trafficking is a $30 billion business. Yeah, that's actually, interestingly enough, why I've been a huge proponent of fighting the war on drugs. I don't want to stop the war on drugs. Sorry, stopping the war on drugs. Some things should still be illegal, like the harshest, worst chemicals. But by and large, I'm almost entirely with Andrew Yang on just legalize all drugs so you can put the money into rehabilitation and prevention because the people are going to get the drugs anyway.
Yep.
Our war on drugs has failed, okay? And then let's put that money into the much deeper and graver moral problems in our society. If we've got $30 billion to put into law enforcement of some kind, let's put $5 billion into the harshest and worst offenders of the drug trade. And then put the other 25 into chasing down all these kidnapped kids, all these trafficked children and women and minorities. You can't say that you appreciate the human element of our society unless you're going to protect the most vulnerable. And these traffickers are freaking brutal. So anyway, we got some more super chats. Can you hit them?
Mm-hmm. Caxton Jones says it's the blue light glasses that make the oracle.
It's the blue light glasses that
Does
make
Cody
the
wear
oracle.
those?
Yeah, dude, he does. And he's got these special settings on his screen where like at a different time of day it slowly starts getting darker and darker and darker, and like supposedly it helps you go to bed easier or something like that. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Oh,
Another one.
wow. Next one is Jesse Wren. For the way you said totally. Was that Cardin or me that said totally?
Yeah. We're both from Southern California, so it's probably going to be surfer bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I sound like a Ninja Turtle sometimes.
Totally.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, okay, so thank you, Jesse Wren and Caxton Jones. Christian Solid says if PSP gets censored, we blame Brittany the Shadow. Yeah, boom.
So I don't know. I don't live my life censored. I don't know what I can and can't say.
Yeah, it's true. And then we got a question here. John LeMay says, anyone here play RuneScape? I have no idea what that is.
I've never even heard of that.
Never heard of that one either. But who knows? Maybe some people in the chat. And then Nathan Butcher says, it's almost like the government is making money on drugs. Yeah. And Trev Third says, just legalize prostitution too. Babe, how do you feel about that? Because I got an opinion on that.
I think it should. I think any consenting adult should be able to do what they want.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, I'm just like, I mean, yeah, there's morality. Yes, I subscribe to the general Christian morality that, you shouldn't cheat on your wife. Hey,
That's good to know.
Good to know, huh, babe?
Yeah.
And, you should do your best to save towards marriage and, so on and so forth. But at the same token, like, if that's how a woman wants to make her money and live her life, like I don't really care.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather make it legal so it could be taxed and regulated in an effective way, not to make the government money, but just like so these women are protected, so they can have protections of companies, so that they're perceived as like literally the workers that they are, and there's protections out there and it's legal. So those that engage in it don't need to be doing it in unsafe environments. Like, did we learn nothing from prohibition? When you create speakeasies, who runs the speakeasies? The mafia. And does the mafia care about the bartender? No. Bartender says one thing wrong, he'll end up being cement booted in the bottom of the Hudson. You know what I'm saying? So you have we learned nothing from 1920s prohibition? I'm a huge fan of that. Anyway, let me see. Drake Wheeler asks, all right, what's your opinion on public education?
Oof.
And what's oof, babe?
Just now.
Hit it.
I feel bad for public education because I feel like this is unprecedented times. And I don't think anyone really knows what decision to make, and no one wants to be held responsible if a ton of kids get COVID. Personally, I've decided to homeschool my kids because I don't trust the public education system. And I've thought about this since before COVID, but I want to be in charge of teaching my kids, and I don't want to trust the establishment and putting it into public education hands.
Well, also, they haven't been doing a really good job. The attitude's totally shifted.
Yeah. It's all busy work right now, I feel like.
Yeah, it's literally all busy work in which they kind of try and not even teach the test, but brainwash to the test. And it's horrible because now they're trying to tell these kids, it used to be that you didn't want to be homeschooled because those kids were weirdos that didn't get socialized.
Yeah.
But now you're sending them to a school where, what are the rules that California's suggesting, babe?
It changes almost every day. But the latest one I saw was today. Teachers, employees of the school are required to wear a face shield, and students will be handed it said face cloth covering. I'm assuming a cloth mask. I know playground equipment is probably not going to be.
No, they're not allowed to use playground equipment.
Yeah, at the school. Hallways are a one-way hallway. And no more cafeterias. You have to stay inside your classroom to eat your lunch. So I think you stay in your classroom all day. And then you can go outside to play, but you have to play by yourself because you have to be socially distant.
Dude, that's freaking brutal, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then the other thing is like, how's that not messing them up in the head?
I don't know. I feel like we're going to see a spike in childhood depression and spike in mental illness when they're not going to know how to socialize because they're going to be taught to be socially distant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And their immune systems are going to be shot because they're not they're not touching people. They're not touching anything outside. So we're going to have a bunch of sickly, mentally ill people.
They don't teach kids to be entrepreneurial. They don't teach them to work with their hands. So we're not generating a manufacturing class or a technologically proficient or even a mechanically inclined class anymore. And then on top of it, I feel like I'm weakening them by sending them to school. Like it's at this point just legal babysitting. And the price that the government requires to legally babysit your children is that you allow them to indoctrinate them in leftism.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And the governor of California just cut the education budget. So what's going to happen? I think all of our property taxes are going to go up.
Yeah, it's the worst grift out there.
Yeah.
And the part that's really bothered me too is growing up as the son of a public educator. It used to be that if there were problems at home, the teacher would help. But at the end of the day, the parents were responsible for making sure that a kid got good grades. If the parents had to hire a tutor, they'd hire a tutor. If the parents had to help out with homework, they had to help out with homework. If a kid was misbehaved, you called the parents. And if dad had to take off work to come pick you up from school, you were in trouble because you as a kid need to learn to behave yourself because I as an adult have to feed this family and can't lose hours. So don't make me come to the school and pick you up. And it was parents and kids were in charge of good behavior. And if you were misbehaved, you all of a sudden were sent back to your parents until you could come back and be well behaved. Now in 2015, LA Unified School District outlawed expelling. You're not allowed to expel a kid. A kid can attack you, and the teacher protocol is the teacher has to put their hands up to show that they're not fighting back. Literally, you could have a mini gangster kid. A high school sophomore that weighs 250 pounds can come at you with a knife. And unless you put your hands up and allow your vital organs to be stabbed with that knife and do not fight back, you are in violation of your teaching credentials protocol. The union won't protect you. Now, no. If you're diddling little kids and you're putting reproductive fluid on a spoon and feeding it to them, which literally happened in LA Unified, putting cockroaches and reproductive fluid on stuff on a spoon and feeding it to the kids, then yeah, it's freaking gross. These people are animals. And guess what? That guy that did that, still on full pay and benefits in LA Unified School District last time I checked. Rubber roomed. They call it the rubber room. All of these dirt bags get put in the same place that the Catholic priests were filtering around their bad guys on. You know what I'm saying? And they defend these horrible people. Oh, but if you're a teacher that doesn't put your hands up when you're getting shanked, you know what I'm saying? By a wannabe gangster, oh well, then you're going to get fired. It's absolute garbage, and that's why people are pissed and they're protesting right now, and that's why half these cities are burning, because the same mentality that doesn't protect good teachers in bad situations that are getting shanked, but will protect the bad teachers, okay, that were supposed to be making good situations for their kids, is the same mentality that exists in these police unions that want to defend corrupt cops, evil cops that shouldn't be there, or cops that are just incompetent, that did bad things out of incompetence or naivete and really shouldn't be cops and should find a different profession. These people are protected and they're stuck in these rubber rooms at full pay, full benefits, and then don't worry, we got you, you're one of us, which isn't the way the system was designed, isn't the way the system will sustain itself. So anyway, Sly Cactus asks, problem solver politics, how do you think this will affect your kids' mental health and social skills? What? Putting them in public education or homeschooling them? I think homeschooling is the way to go now.
I think he means like, well, I don't know. You can tell us what you mean. I interpreted it as just growing up with like COVID and like all of the restrictions in place.
Yeah. Nathan Butcher says that's the same with people working in assisted living. You can get your butt kicked. And as a worker, you can't defend yourself. Yeah, okay, I believe that. Caxton Jones says, at my workplace, I find it's weird meeting a new person while wearing masks and working with them, having never seen their face, can't imagine what it's like in a school setting. Yeah, how crazy is that?
Yeah.
You're right. That's dystopian, literally dystopian.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, so our son, he's young, but he was watching a show. And he was like, hey, why aren't they 6 feet apart? And I was like, oh, that's so sad. Like, he knows at this young age that people should be separated because you could get COVID. And it's a false narrative that he was told because he couldn't finish his year up at school.
Yeah. And Christian Solid says, my teacher, Christian, you got to join. You got to join at this point, bro. You just got to join, man. You're one of us. Christian said, My teacher beat the crap out of me with a pool stick. Yes, I deserved it. I hate to say it, but like, I mean, do you know how many people my age and older have said, oh yeah, dude, my teacher spanked me and it was the first time. Like, I remember when I went from being a kid to being a young adult, there was one specific moment with a teacher, and it is a moment where my childhood ended and my young adult life began. Have I ever told you this, Brittany?
I don't think so.
Okay. It wasn't with a thumping though, guys, but it was kind of like a thumping. I hit a wall. Okay. It was in junior high and it was with Mr. Olson in PE. And he said, go and sit on your numbers. There were all these numbers, and to take attendance, you had to stand on a number so that he could just easily look at what number wasn't full and then take attendance that way before we started our jogging and so on and so forth. Okay. And no joke, I remember I was talking with my friend and playing around with him and stuff like that. And he said, okay, sit on your number. Ellis, sit on your number. And I wasn't done joking around and playing with the guy yet. So I did another like 5 or 6 seconds doing it and finally said, Ellis, go now, run a lap. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Olson. And then I went back to playing with my friend. And then he came up to me and he stuck a finger in my face and he said, I said, go run a lap. And I remember that in my mind, I was like, but I said I was sorry. And that's always what teachers want, is just to hear you say you're sorry. Right? Oh, sorry doesn't matter in this new, brave new real world that I live in? Wait, I still have to run a lap? Wait, what? Oh, this is the way the world is. And you don't understand. It was like the rapid death of my childhood self in terms of just thinking you can get away with stuff if you're cute. You know what I'm saying? Or you're funny about it. And just realizing that, holy crap, rules are actually rules.
Yeah, take responsibility.
And Mr. Olson standing up and getting in my face and just saying, I said, go run a lap. And just having this big, masculine brick of a man. He was a cancer survivor. He used to be a fat, tubby dude from what he tells us, who ended up becoming just like this. He's like a little miniature John Cena. You know what I'm saying? So just by having this PE teacher in his gym shorts and his jacked up look getting in my face and saying, I said, go run a lap, just changed me. I will never forget how I in that moment, I remember a stark before and after in my attitude about rules and social engagement in this world.
And also, don't you wish more males would go into teaching?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I do.
Why would you want? Why you want that?
I think I think kids respect men more. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they just have more of that.
Well, boys do.
I think girls and boys both.
Yeah, I think I could easily see a successful teaching body being 50% male, 50% female.
Yeah.
And not because any one gender is better, but each gender brings something different to the table. And especially in behavior cases, I think you need males.
Or maybe it's just because females are predominantly in the teaching profession. So when you have a male teacher, it's kind of like a novelty. So you're like, oh. So I don't know. Maybe it was different. Maybe if all males were teaching and then you had a female teacher, maybe I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
Yeah, so Sly Cactus says, so yeah, I meant you and Brittany's kid in particular, mental health and social skills from all of this. Yeah, no, I think you will actually have more social skills being homeschooled. Because the truth is, nowadays...
No, he's talking about, like, what's going on now. What do you think his mental and social will be?
Yeah, I think by homeschooling our children, they will actually be better socialized than at school. Because when you, here in California, if you choose, for example, a charter school, you're given a small budget to choose extracurricular activities, and you're given the books with the curriculum and so on and so forth. It's a very guided and led program. And it's nice because you can say like, okay, well, we've got, let's just say, I'm just throwing a number out there, a $3,000 budget for tuition. Well, I can put him in a horseback riding program, up in the canyon. I can enroll him in the Boy Scouts and pay his dues in the Boy Scouts. And I can also put him on a recreational basketball league. And then he'll also take gymnastics, you know, and, you know, once every day he's got each one of those things. So he's getting socialized. He's meeting other kids that are in these programs. He's doing gymnastics, and then he's got his buddies in Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts, and then he's, you know, learning to horseback ride, and he's with the adults that are teaching how to horseback ride, and so on and so forth. I view it as a much broader and more holistic education that's socializing him more. See, it used to be the homeschool kids were at home all day, and oftentimes it was religious radicals or else like actor families or people that were very isolated from society would do homeschooling. Now, homeschooling just means that it's led by the parents instead of being led by the parents in the home instead of being led by a teacher who's under the scrutiny and the rules of the school district. And I'm not worried about my kid not going to school, because at school, he's going to be dehumanized and forced to talk behind a mask. He's going to be forced to have desks that are 6 feet apart. Literally, that's what they're doing right now. And they're putting one-way hallways in our schools now. They're painting on the floors stripes so kids can only walk one way in hallways. You're going to tell me that their mental health isn't going to be affected when they're forced to wear a mask, stand 6 feet from anybody else, not be allowed to socialize with their friends on the playground or touch the playground equipment, be forced to eat the food inside. That was another one of the
Yeah, they're getting rid of cafeterias.
Yeah, they're getting rid of cafeterias. And then they're told they have to perform academically to a test, you know, competing against these other unknown and unseen individuals. That is not a school, it's a prison. And we already had a problem with our schools. Why is it that all these school SHOOTRSs, why is it that all these kids that grab GUNs and end up doing these horrific things they do in schools, like they did in Saugus High, like 6 months ago? Why is it it's always in schools? It's not in Boy Scout halls, generally not in churches, not at movie theaters, not at regular malls. Why is it always in schools? What angst is getting developed there? What about that system is making so that is the target? Now, yes, I get it. Kids spend an abnormal amount of time there. And if you're going to lash out against something, it's probably going to be in the thing that you spend an abnormal amount of time in, okay? But also, they spend abnormal amounts of times in lots of different places, and those places aren't getting hit. So we already have to ask ourselves questions as to how we are failing these children, and we're not doing that. Instead, we're getting in garbage arguments about whether a magazine should have 8 or 10 bullets. No. We should be asking, why are they always going after the schools? Anyway,
there was a question up here, and I've lost it, so I'm going to paraphrase. But I think it was from Drake Wheeler.
Yeah, hit it.
He said, like, if you had unlimited amount of money, would you choose private school? And that got me thinking. I don't know enough about private school because I went to public schools. But everyone that I knew, I had some Catholic friends who went to OLPH.
Yeah.
They hated it. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because it was a Catholic private school and they didn't like going.
No, I had friends as well, and they hated it because it was small.
That's what it was?
Yeah, they
Okay.
didn't have the sports teams. They didn't have it's small. Now it was good education. They got good test scores. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? It's kind of a prep school from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And I had friends that went there as well. But
I just always view private school people as like snotty.
well, that's a problem. Is at least here
But
in
that's me
California.
generalizing.
That is a generalization, but here in California, private schools are expensive. Tuition can be as much as the cheapest private school I've ever seen was $14,000 a year.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 kids, you are paying post taxes $28,000 a year, which is about $50,000 pre-taxes. So
It's like college tuition for kindergarten.
yeah, exactly. You are literally paying K through 12 college students. So unless you've got an extra $50K to throw around for all your kids, you can't afford a private school. So who can afford the private schools? The uber wealthy. And then what do you end up having? You end up having a school just full of nothing but super wealthy kids that are all playing, who can have the latest iPhone, who can have the latest Gucci purse. It's
Gucci. Gucci is so last year.
Oh yeah, exactly. So anyway, Bo Watson says vouchers for schools and public schools let the community teach its children. No, vouchers for. Okay, so vouchers is a really interesting argument that has been vilified by the left when the most successful voucher-based programs are actually in the most democratic and blue areas. You need to watch a documentary called Waiting for Superman, which talks about a charter school system that's based upon a lottery. Okay. Vouchers introduce choice. Now, on the right, there's actually people that have abused voucher and charter school programs. We had a problem with a school in our town that basically, from what I understand, and I'm paraphrasing here, there was a rabbi that basically wanted to make a private Jewish school, but wanted to be able to call it a charter school, and was taking a bunch of charter school funds, but wasn't allowing anybody of any demographic to apply. And so a lot of minority groups ended up appealing to the district saying, hey, wait, this isn't fair. If you're going to be a charter school, you should allow anybody to go. And I might be botching the summary here, you know what I'm saying? But the old superintendent was telling me what was going on. And it created all of this frustration because it ended up looking like a wealthy private school instead of looking like a school that was actually just serving the regular demographics of the community. Okay. And what's funny is I've seen wildly, phenomenally successful charter schools that are amazing, and then there's also been ones that people have tried to make money off of it and exploited those loopholes that make it so that people that hate charter schools, like teachers unions, because it doesn't make them as influential, and limits their power, now they got an excuse to go after them. So it behooves people on the right that want to introduce more free market reforms into education. It behooves them to regulate the bad actors that try and take advantage of the system and the vouchers. It behooves them to regulate their own. And then on the left, for people that want to, just dismiss vouchers, then, you got to regulate your own too. Keep going, babe.
Did you see Courtney is on the chat?
Courtney who?
Courtney Hansen. He said,
Oh, Courtney Hansen.
he said,
What
not
up?
Gucci, Louis Vuitton.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. All right, keep going. Hit a couple more.
More questions?
Yep, more questions.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to go through. Hold on. Okay, Drake Wheeler. Tell me what you think about this, Garden. He said, end public education, enforce virtual home education programs, increase private school availability into the middle class.
Private school availability to the middle class?
Yeah. End public education, enforce virtual home education programs.
Enforce virtual. Well, first off, I don't like the word enforce because I kind of question, whoa, what's that going to mean? But you would ultimately have to enforce any kind of law if you do end up having a law. I think there is a place for public education. I'm all about.
I loved public education last year. If we could just make schools normal again, that would be great.
It's not even make America great again. It's MANA, make America normal again, right?
Exactly.
You know? No, there's a place like, if you believe in UBI, universal basic income, that everybody has, that there's a spot where capitalism shouldn't start at zero. It should start at maybe $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month. Then you also inherently don't necessarily believe in Medicare for all, but health savings accounts, universal basic health income, so if something happens to you that month, you're not worried about, being able to afford a doctor, which then makes it so that the doctors still have to compete for who has the best and most up-to-date practice because they're trying to get that UBHI money. Okay. I think in education, if you wanted to say, okay, we're going to not abolish private education, but say like, we're going to introduce a nationwide voucher program or like a statewide voucher program. Or you introduce some kind of incentive into it, some kind of free market reforms. I could see there being a drastic increase in the efficacy of our public education, a drastic one. We're actually going to have to wrap up sometime soon.
This
here.
was interesting by
yeah, we got a couple more questions. We got a couple more questions. Hit us.
Shh, don't interrupt me.
Ooh, sorry.
Gosh, I feel like Cody here.
Okay.
Okay, Lori's daughter said, can only do homeschooling if there's a parent that doesn't work. It's very true.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, who's going to be home with the kids?
Well, I just feel like that's so sad. Like parents now, if both parents are working and they were relying on public education, that is so sad that they have to send their kids to public education, whether they agree with the guidelines or not. They don't have a choice. And I feel, it's terrible.
Yeah. Well,
I'm glad I'm not in that situation. And I feel bad for people that are.
Yeah, exactly. And all it does is really further the power that corporations have over people. Because really, I mean, it's now the political establishment and the wealthy corporate elites have made a system in which you literally cannot live in California unless you're dual income, unless you want to literally live close to the poverty line. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is. So now you have these two stressed out parents. Like, I mean, this part of the reason why I can't stand modern feminism, like anything post-suffrage, I just view as being wildly destructive to the family and to females. Okay, not because I'm a bigot or misogynist or a male supremacist or a chauvinist.
You're toxic.
No. Or toxically masculine, but because I think, what kind of organization convinces a woman that her life is more fulfilled by working for a soulless corporation, to make that soulless corporation a profit, to use her time and her talents in exchange for some sum of money and furthering this soulless corporation? Like, how is that woman in a better situation than she would be teaching her children the basics of life, how to be better citizens, and cultivating her legacy as mother, as grandmother? Like only if you have a hatred for those two terms and you do not venerate those two terms, do you view someone cultivating their legacy as a bad thing. So I don't know how feminists pulled it off. I don't know how they pulled it off. And I use the term feminist loosely because I'm not talking about the suffragettes here, okay? But how they pulled off convincing women that they are better off, addicted to Xanax, overworked, okay, and underpaid, advancing the ideals and goals of the elite media, political, and corporate class, how that's an improvement on their lives than cultivating their legacy of their family. And yeah, sure, supposedly there was sexism in hiring and so on and so forth. I think some of that is a little bit of hyperbole, because when I've gone back and I've interviewed people that experienced that, all of my grandparents and so on and so forth, my grandmother was the #1 salesperson at Sears Roebuck for selling carpets and drapes. She was an award-winning salesperson. She said, I never felt like I was ever looked down upon or not given an opportunity due to my sex or my gender. Okay. And I think there's a little bit of revisionist history going on. And what I did hear from a lot of people is, yes, there was sexism in the sense that people didn't think you were capable of doing a job, and that had to go. Okay. But I don't think we needed Title IX to do that. I think that was a cultural change, not a legislative change that needed to happen. And at the same time, a lot of people say, you know, there's just a lot of females that didn't want to get into it. And the proof of that shows up in Sweden.
I
Got a
like
super
Bo
chat?
Watson's comment. He says, "Mommy tax eliminated with UBI."
All right. Rock on. That's true.
Yep.
The mommy tax. Oh, Diva J461 gives us a stamp. Hey, thanks for the super chat. That's called not a super emoji. What's that called? A super sticker. That's it. It's called a super sticker.
I didn't know that.
And it's a guy going, da 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 da, and he's like wiggling his thumb like, yeah.
That's a guy. It looks like a chicken.
Oh, yeah, it's green chicken.
Yeah.
You're right. And Drake Wheeler says homeschooling could be really changed if counties and schools districts start introducing more stay-at-home classes like how some colleges do. Yeah, there's with technology now, guys, if we can live stream and we can have this kind of experience right here, why can't people learn that way? I mean, Facebook now is hiring off of just Khan Academy. If you get really good grades in the Khan Academy programming classes, Facebook will hire you regardless of you. I don't even think you have to have a GED to get hired by Facebook anymore. If you've passed the Khan Academy classes, they will straight up hire you. My biological father at the University of Florida was in charge of their expanding their online school protocols. And I mean, it's incredible the wealth of education that you can gain just by having what is even a live streaming experience. So nothing will make up for on-hands education, especially in the trades, especially in engineering skills, especially in things where you do have to be face-to-face. But the first 50%, I mean, if they could do live stream flight school for airline pilots and get 80% of the education done via the computer and then 20% done in the classroom on the plane, I think we could do that for primary and secondary education as well. Really interesting questions here. Tom says we can't let our kids go to public school because they will learn about evolution. Okay, we can go deep down that rabbit hole. Chat, tell me if you want to. I think that's an old stereotype. Okay. And by the way, evolution, first off,
We're going to go down an evolution rabbit hole.
No. When you study the Big Bang and the first chapters of the Bible, they're literally the same thing, but just spoken in different languages. Okay. And what people forget is everybody thinks they're so scientific for believing in evolution, and evolution's literally been debunked. It's a theory that has been debunked. Okay. Evolution. Yeah, I know. And see, look at the way you're looking at me like, what? People are like, oh, you're a flat earther by saying evolution's been debunked. Yeah. Well, if you actually read The Origin of Species and you read Charles Darwin's thoughts on evolution, he himself said, look, these are my observations. These are my theories. And here are some flaws in my theories. And I can't prove whether this theory is correct or not because it needs future investigations. But if this ends up not being true, these aspects of my theory are bad and wrong. And one of them was this idea that we have a common ancestor with a bunch of missing links. That basically, at one point we were bacteria, or amoebas that became bacteria, that became fungi, and then that fungi ended up becoming a lizard, and that lizard ended up becoming an amphibious, mud guppy, and that mud guppy ended up becoming a turtle, and that turtle ended up, growing into I'm drastically botching the example here, but a bigger lizard, which turned into a bird, which ended up turning into an ape, which turned into a chimpanzee, which turned into a Homo erectus, which turned into a human. Okay. And it was suggested that from the trunk of the tree came out all kinds of different branches. All right. And these little branches had links.
You're losing people on this evolution thing.
Yeah. No, we're going to finish this. We're going to finish this because I'm actually going somewhere with this. And he said, with future archaeological investigation, we will actually find that all species are linked together in a tree format. Well, we actually haven't found that. And if you guys need to look up the Burgess Shale in Canada in the 1920s, 500 billion years, a mountain literally broke in half and half of it fell off, and 500 billion years worth of archaeological data and fossils were found in what's called the Burgess Shale. And they explored what was called the Cambrian explosion, where in the Cambrian period, instead of having a bunch of animals evolved from simpler life forms. We just had new ones appear and disappear out of nowhere. We've never found a missing link to Homo erectus, or sorry, not to Homo erectus, but to chimpanzees. We've never uncovered a single missing one of Charles Darwin's missing links. Okay, we have been able to prove certain aspects of evolutionary theory, like the genetic aspects of the scientists that were with him. Natural selection, absolutely proven. We can prove that the survival of the fittest mechanism breeds animals with longer necks, if longer necks is what helps you get to the leaves at the top of the trees. But we haven't been able to prove that a cat can actually turn into a dog. So intraspecies evolution has been disproven. No, interspecies evolution has been disproven. Intraspecies, within the species, evolution has been proven, which is really weird because now we're in this weird spot where, well, where are we as a scientific society? Because we can prove evolution works, but we can't prove that this aspect of the theory works. So where did it come from? Now, some people fill that in with intelligent design and say, okay, well, God created everything, right? Oh, well, okay, if you believe, and that's been your spiritual confirmation, sure, go for that. That's your belief. But we can't prove that either. So we're at this weird situation now where half of Charles Darwin has been proven unequivocally true, and half of it's been proven unequivocally false, yet we just believe the whole thing is true. And nobody's actually read The Origin of Species or know what evolution is. We literally just think that evolution is science because science. And evolution is non-Christian. When the strange, weird thing is that many of our deepest, oldest texts actually support what is the best scientific consensus on the origins of the universe and the Big Bang Theory. So now that I've probably pissed off a bunch of people, let's read what they have to say. By the way, chat, what'd you think of that whole thing? You know what I'm saying? Let's see what they said.
We got some mixed reviews.
Evolution by natural selection is one of the best substantiated theories in history of science, supported by evidence from a wide variety of some scientific disciplines. Yeah, natural selection. That's why I specifically called out natural selection. But we haven't been able to find the missing link. So the theory of the genetic tree coming from what's called the common ancestor, all right, that part's been completely debunked as just not even close. Swing and a miss, just like Freudian. Half of Freud's theories. You know what I'm saying? Some of them still hold water. Others, swing and a miss. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's any modern psychologist that will say there's a study that supports PENISNV. Phallic envy. I don't think the father of modern psychology, Sigmund Freud, could write in a modern scientific journal supporting data of phallic envy, shall we say. Okay, might do a little bit better with behaviorism, or who knows, oral fixations or whatever. But yeah, not gonna be able to support any kind of data showing that phallic envy is a real thing. So yeah, you're right, Nathan Butcher. Evolution by natural selection is one of the best substantiated. I wouldn't say theories, parts of the theory, yes. In history and science, absolutely, and we need to venerate those that have been able to do the hard work into proving that. Sly Cactus says, "I love you, no homo." All right, I love you back. I haven't heard that phrase in a long time. Derail says, "Cardin, check out God and the Astronomers. Haven't read it yet, but I heard it's very interesting history of the scientific community initially rejecting Big Bang Theory because it seemed deistic." Yeah, see, science has been corrupted. That's the biggest problem. And an argument we had 2 weeks ago that now even science has been corrupted by politics. Like, science is no longer this third-party thing that all of us will actually defer to in order to check ourselves, because now it's been corrupted by money and politics. Why? Because these scientists need to come up with answers that suit the people that fund them. You know what I'm saying? That's a really bad way to control the outcome. If you tell a guy, if you don't come up with this science that proves that our oil company can drill here without environmental impact, you may not get that. You may not get that $3 billion for your foundation next year. Journal of Academic Petroleum-Based Geographic Science. You know what I'm saying? So I will check it out. Rail to the T, but you got to check it out too. So
it's 3 minutes after 8. How long are we going?
Oh crap! No, we were supposed to stop at 8. Oh, so yeah. I'll do these last comments here. 5-star card and Uber review. Don't know what that means, but Emerald Miner says 5-star card in Uber review. So he's just going to give me a 5-star review?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought there was like a hidden meaning to that. Like if it's an Uber review, it means like you're a crazy Uber driver or something.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
Emerald Miner says, I'm with you, Cardin, as a Christian. I don't know about everyone else. Yeah, I think all truth comes from the same spot. And in reality, if God is true and Christian doctrine is true, it would have to match up with repetitive observational science. So I don't fear more scientific inquiry. I give to scientific foundations. I love the scientific method. You know, this idea that Christian doctrine goes against science is a false dichotomy that's set up by a political and a media establishment that want the scientific community and the religious community to be divided because they profit off of it, and it divides the revolutionaries. When in reality, the economic scientists that are saying, hey, this economy, the way we've created it, doesn't work for the average person, and the leaders of the religious communities that are saying, hey, all lives matter, we're all children of God, we need to have a better system that helps all of God's children. They really should be revolutionaries working with each other to defeat this establishment, but they're not. They're told by this establishment that no, you guys need to be fighting each other because like Christian is not the same as like evolution, because like evolution, see, evolution disproves Christianity. Oh no, but you gotta go fight. Meanwhile, we're gonna go send our children to these elite schools and recycle all of our wealth that you don't get. And by the way, you have to bail us out. You got to bail us out if we ever fail. And when you do bail us out, we're just gonna buy back all of our stocks. We're not gonna actually hire you back, but we'll hire back our stocks so we make money. Anyway, so
well, that's time.
Yeah, it's going to be about time here. But Watson says Jesus is archetypal perfect man. Okay, I guess with that. Scientifically, we all do come from the sun. Actually, scientifically, the sun is actually a very small star compared to others that we found in the universe, and is all traveling away from a point of impact where the Big Bang started from. So we would actually have to say we came from the same spot. Our stardust originally came from the same spot that the sun came from, if you're actually using Big Bang theory. Caxton Joe says maybe we'll dig up a lot more substantial scientific evidence once the Elons of the world start selling commercial adaptations to the populace. Could be. And Spiral Flame 88 says remove all religious text and none of it will be the same as it once was. Math and science will and can deduce that through trial and error. Oh no, you see, you're making the Ricky Gervais argument. Ricky Gervais was sitting down and was talking with who's the guy that sold out to the left? He was funny when he was making fun of the right. Stephen Colbert on the Colbert Report. Colbert Report was hilarious. He was basically just making fun of all the Fox News anchors and was making fun of Bill O'Reilly. But then when he sold out to CBS, he couldn't actually do anything bipartisan. He could only go after the right. And so he kind of sold out his humor. But he's a very well-known Catholic, and he was having a conversation with Ricky Gervais. And Ricky Gervais tried to bring up the point saying, well, if you burned all of, the Bibles in the world and had to rewrite them, they wouldn't be rewritten the same. And no, I challenge that. I absolutely challenge that. Because first off, you can't tell me that do unto others as you would have do unto you isn't basically the backbone of modern Christian thought as it was when Jesus Christ said it 2,000 years ago. Like, really, if we burned all the religious texts to the ground and said, hey, what's the best way that we deal with our common man? What's if we had to sum all of our thoughts from these holy books that we're going to write into one sentence and make two great laws, just like the Sadducees asked of Jesus Christ. If we were to literally burn all the books, as Ricky Gervais suggested, you know what I'm saying, and say, how do we sum this up? We would probably come up with the exact same sentence. Do unto others as you would want done unto you. First great law. You know what I'm saying? And then the second great law is love thy God as thyself and as thy fellow man. Okay? Why? Because humans are meant to worship. And if you don't think we're not meant to worship, look at Elon Musk's fan club. Look at the Apple store when a new iPhone comes out. When Star Wars makes like a 17th crappy movie. Look at all the people that dress up in cosplay and camp in tents outside the movie theaters. Like, men are meant to worship. Okay, so if I were to burn all these books, religious books, to the ground and start out with a basic text, my first 2 sentences would be, well, you know, we all should view each other as in the same boat together, all children of, you know, God, because we can't say a God doesn't exist. We haven't been able to scientifically prove he doesn't. We haven't been able to scientifically prove he does. But we know that human beings, it's in our soul to worship. So just make sure that if we're going to do that and we're going to engage in worship, that it's to God, and that we treat all of our fellow men correctly. And what does that mean? Treating them correctly? Well, do unto them what you would have done unto you, which is basically the Sermon on the Mount written 2,000 years ago. So Ricky Gervais was wrong about that. And the other thing that he was wrong about was he said, oh, well, the scientific community polices itself. Whenever there were errors that were found by the scientific community, they were corrected by the scientific. No, BS. The most horrific ethics violations of modern science, and you can look them up, generally were corrected and called out by the moral leaders of the time. Okay? So I don't suggest that science and religion are against each other. I actually just think they're the pursuit of truth by 2 different means. The scientific theory is what? For those of you that don't like my idea, name what the scientific theory is. It's coming up with a hypothesis, developing an experiment for that hypothesis, developing controls for that hypothesis, and then observing the results of that experiment, and then repeating those results of that experiment until you get dependable data. And once you have that data, you put that data in journals so that others can repeat it and can verify it. So it's hyper observation until you can develop laws and substantiate theories. So we know that gravity is 9.81 meters per second. Or if you're in England, 9.82 meters per second, because all around the world, we've been able to retest that theory and observe the rock, when dropped, will accelerate, okay? That acceleration equals mass. No. F equals ma, so force equals mass times acceleration. Yeah, so we can measure the force and the kinetic energy of that rock according to its mass and the acceleration at which it is traveling, which is 9.82 meters per second. We can replicate that anywhere in the world. So that is truth. Well, that is no different of a truth than, Moses receiving the 10 Commandments and being told, thou shalt not kill. Both are truths. They're just kind of found different ways. One's through personal revelation, which can only be experienced between a God and an individual, and is only relative to that individual and cannot be superimposed upon anybody else. And then the other is observational truth, which is found through repetitive experimentation. Okay, well, one is religious truth that is found through repetitive practice. I mean, if you meditate enough, you'll achieve nirvana and hopefully be less stressed out and a better citizen. Meanwhile, if you test gravitational theory enough, you might be able to develop some laws that make it so, parachutes and airplanes work. Okay? They're literally both the same thing.
Okay, comment. Anastasia's dad 1 says, hey, can I please get a rock on?
Rock on. Yeah. Rock on. Okay, Caxton Jones says, one dislike is Cody tuning into evolution debunk. I don't get that. What's he saying?
I don't know.
Well, one dislike is Cody tuning in to evolution debunk. I don't know. Did Cody tune in? And it wasn't an evolution debunk.
I don't know what that means, but my mind is
Yeah, it's an
spinning.
exploration of evolutionary theory and what we've been able to prove and what we haven't. You guys need to read a really interesting book. It's called... It's by the same author that wrote Signature in the Cell.
While you're thinking of that.
Darwin's Doubt. He wrote a book called Darwin's Doubt, and it was about the 2 scientists that were competing at the time of Charles Darwin. And Charles Darwin wildly respected the other one, and we don't know much about the other one now. He's kind of been lost to history, but it's a lot about evolutionary theory, and it does talk a chapter on the Burgess Shale. You should read it. It's pretty interesting. John LeMay says, I love hearing Card's opinions. You should do one of these kinds of streams every week. I like to contrast the ones with Cody. All right, that's good to hear. We'll start doing that. Sharpie Diesel says, does our solar system move into space? By space, I think you mean space. Yes, absolutely. And it's actually kind of crazy. People don't realize it, but we're moving as a universe in disparate directions. Big Bang Theory technically says that at one point gravitational pull will actually suck us all back together, and there will be yet another Big Bang, and that the Big Bang is actually a cyclical process that takes quadrillions of years. But right now, at this point in time, the Big Bang has exploded, and all these particles and pieces are actually moving away from each other. So though we are not moving away, well, we're slowly moving away from our sun, but we're moving away from other stars and planets. Keep
Okay,
going.
so people in the chat, thank you. They explained Caxton Jones's super chat. We have one dislike. So they're thinking that's Cody who turned in for the evolution.
Oh, geez, brutal. Cody, no. Actually, he would just call me up and say that was stupid, Carden.
Yeah.
Kendra Bull says most religion just repeat the same stuff. I think there's definitely some common threads against most elevated religions. And I think that does talk to the universality of God and the general universality of most positive faith. I mean, there's a reason why most of these archetypes are very similar. And some people would say that's proof of one true God, just as much as it's proof that we all have the same brains, and Joseph Campbell's archetypal theories are true as well. I think all of that is the same truth. Just like left and right are titles invented by the media to divide the revolutionaries so they maintain power, I think the fight in between religion and science is not a real fight. It's a fight made up by the political class so they can sell books and can keep the revolutionaries divided.
Okay, it is now 8:15.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up here. Nathan Butcher says his argument is that we wouldn't get the Bible, Quran again. Okay, maybe not in its exact word for word form, but then again, if we burned all the scientific journals, I mean, if we burned the Library of Congress to the ground and we burned all the scientific journals ever written by Archimedes and by Pythagoras and Einstein to the ground in that library, would we ever get those back either if we rewrote them down? No, the basic values and principles and verifiable data would all be the same. So it's kind of almost like this hateful comment to say, like, that's one of Ricky Gervais' comments that is just not true. But everybody should look up the argument. He toasted Steve Colbert. Steve Colbert looked at him dupified for a solid second. And in that second, he lost the argument where I was saying, like, no, Steve, say this. And he didn't. So you guys should watch that. Anyway, 2 more minutes. If you got any last super chats in your system, get them out of your system. If you got any last questions, burning questions, hit us. And yes, we'll be doing these kinds of videos once a week. Got to give Cody a break. RH says, must be nice to complete a thought. Hey, I think I'm pretty good at completing thoughts. Charles 95 says, but you must treat nature and animals good, not just ungrateful people. I think, I'm not exactly vegan. Okay. But I do think
I was for 6 months.
You were for 6 months?
For 6 months.
How'd that go?
It actually wasn't as hard as I thought, but I don't eat dairy. So it was just, and I don't really eat meat. So it's kind of easy.
Yeah. Now, Trev Third also says an age is around 2,600 years. It has to do with the way the Earth is spinning in the precession of the equinox. Yeah, he's actually talking about the fact that the Earth doesn't technically spin perfectly on its axis. It has a 1.5 degree tilt, and it stops tilting and goes back to its original axis about every 2,600 years. And it's completely measurable, completely verifiable. And it has to do with our tides and the oceans and so on and so forth. And is part of the reason why people think that the Sphinx is not actually 2,000 years old or 2,600 years old, but 10,000 years old, because they think it's gone through several ages. And interestingly enough, when the Bible says in the first period, God created the heavens and the earth, the Bible basically claims that humanity is 2,600 years old, if you actually go and do all the math of like Methuselah and all that other stuff in the Bible. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. It doesn't surprise me that an age is 2,600 years old, and the most modern text that we have claims that humanity is 2,600 years old. It's pretty interesting. Although, yes, I know we have archaeological data that puts, like, for example, the Denisovan Cave puts versions of us 10,000, 14,000 years ago, and then you start getting into the semantic arguments of, okay, well, in the Hebrew Bible, when it said in the first period, well, how long was that period? These kind of conversations are awesome, and we can have them if you guys want to have them another day. Anyway, one last minute. Anastasia's dad, ultimate version of a cop, says Bo Watson, who also says cows taste too good. That's true. If God didn't intend animals to be eaten, why'd he make them out of tasty meat? Vegan. And then Astro Keslo says, next time add religion in the title so I know to get the F out. Ouch, brutal, man. What happened to you that you would?
Well,
you
you're
would
still
get the F
sticking
out?
around, so
Yeah. What's wrong with that, man? Bad Religion the band? What if it's just like a Bad Religion the band review? You know. Anyway, and then John LeMay says this is verifiable. There is verifiable water damage on the Sphinx. Yeah, that was actually one of our most popular live streams when I talked about the age of the Sphinx. So
okay, it's 8:20 now.
Anyway, yeah, we got to get out of here. I'm getting calls. I actually got an appointment that I got to go to that I'm already 20 minutes late for. But hey, I'm hooked on the PSP Army. You guys are super fun and super awesome. So Sharpie Diesel, thank you so much for the last super chat. That's probably an awesome way to end, is on a super chat. Sharpie Diesel, you're awesome. Caction Jones says, thanks for the stream. Enjoyed hanging out tonight. Look, we enjoyed hanging out with you as well. You got anything last things you want to say? Any goodbyes you want to say? Brittany the Shadow?
Nope.
All right. Awesome.
Bye.
This was Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video. Din, din, din.